Good evening. Welcome to the August 12th, 2021 City of Roseville Planning Commission meeting. Pursuant to paragraph 42 of Executive Order N-08-21, executed by the Governor of California on June 11th, 2021, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19, the Planning Commission meeting will allow members of the public to participate and address the Planning Commission during the open session of the meeting. Public comment may be submitted by telephone during the meeting and prior to the close of public comment on an agenda item by calling 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until the attendant can answer. The broadcast is delayed by up to 30 seconds when watching at home. When your call is transferred, you will have 3 minutes for public comment on items not on the agenda and 5 minutes in which to speak to a regular agenda item. Your time will be monitored and you will be informed when you have 1 minute left to conclude your comments. If you're listening to the meeting while calling in, please turn down the volume on the meeting in order to avoid interference. When calling, please do not use the speakerphone option as it may create difficulty for the Planning Commission to hear your comments. And with that, I'll now call the meeting to order. Loopy, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Brashears.
Here.
Commissioner Caparuso.
Here.
Commissioner Covington.
Here.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost.
Here.
Commissioner Pryor.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin.
Here.
And Chair Jensen is absent, excused.
Thanks, Loopy. Let's go ahead and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Loopy, can we please have staff introductions?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Loopy Nelson, Recording Secretary.
Good evening, Joe Speaker, Assistant City Attorney.
Good evening, Chair Martin and Commissioners. Greg Bitter, Planning Manager.
Good evening, Commissioners. Derek Ogden, Senior Planner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Sean Morales, Assistant Planner.
And good evening, Matt Todd, Principal Engineer.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is public comment. The public comment period is a time for anyone who would like to address the Commission on an item not on tonight's agenda. Public comment may be given by calling 916-774-5353. When addressing the Commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the area here who has a public comment? No. We'll give a few seconds for any callers possible.
Yeah, we'll wait about 30 seconds for the delay. Sure. Chair Martin, there are no public comments on the phone
great.
tonight.
Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Next, we move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of routine items that may be approved under one motion as recommended in the staff reports. However, each item may be considered separately upon a request by the audience, Planning Commission, or staff. To request that a consent item be considered separately, the public may call in at 916-774-5353. And tonight's consent calendar consists of one item only. The item is 5.1, which are the minutes from the July 22nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. And we ask if there's anybody in the public who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Anybody in the audience? Nope. And we'll wait for another call again for a few seconds.
There's no public comment or no request to remove anything from the consent calendar.
Okay, great. Commissioners, would anybody like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion?
I'd like to pull the minutes. I just have one change.
Okay.
On the item 6.2, Commissioner discussion bullet 3. So that was my comment. It says a commissioner asked if it was achievable to obtain the 600 units through the Opportunity Sites portion of the rezone program. My question was whether or not it was achievable to obtain the 600 units through the sites that were identified already within the Opportunity Sites portion of the rezone program.
Was that it? Yeah. Commissioner Capruso? Okay. So we have a request to modify item 6.2 bullet 3 to modify the verbiage as stated by Commissioner Capruso. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent item? Anybody?
I'll move to approve, incorporating Commissioner Caparuso's comment.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Covington and seconded by Pryor. May I please have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Hagen-Jost?
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Covington?
Yes.
Commissioner Caparuso?
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin?
Yes. The motion's approved. Okay, so then we move on to the next item, which is the requests and presentations. So before we begin, I'm going to review some of the meeting procedures. First, we'll hear the staff presentation, and then after that, we'll take questions from the commissioners, if they have any questions. Then we'll open it to the public hearing, and in that public hearing, we'll have the application make their presentation, and then we'll open the public comment, and the public will have the opportunity to speak, and then we'll close the public comment, and then the applicant will be able to provide any rebuttal to any public comments if there are any. And then after that, we'll close the public hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, then we'll have the commissioners that can ask any questions of staff. And then finally, the commission will consider these items and make a decision based on the information provided in the report from staff and the testimony presented during tonight's hearings. As a reminder, public comment may be given by calling in 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until your staff can answer. When addressing the commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comment to 5 minutes. First on the agenda is item 6.1, is a request to approve a tentative subdivision map and tree permit for 570 Roseville Parkway. For the record, the file number is PL21-0070. Sean, can we have your presentation, please?
Yes, you may. Good evening again, Commissioners. My name is Sean Morales. My first presentation tonight is for the Campus Oaks Parcel 3 Tentative Subdivision Map project. The project site is located at 570 Roseville Parkway on Parcel CO3 within the Campus Oaks Master Plan. The 15-acre site has a land use designation of low-density residential and a zoning designation of single-family residential with development standards, or R1DS. The property is bounded to the north by low-density subdivision CO2, to the west and south by open space, and to the east by a future park. The Campus Oaks Master Plan was adopted in 2015 and consists of a mix of residential, office, and commercial uses. CO3 is the last unmapped residential parcel, and much of the Campus Oaks area is under construction currently. The current request is for a small lot tentative subdivision map to create single-family lots and a tree permit to evaluate construction encroachment impacts on one native oak tree on the site. Consistent with the master plan, the proposed subdivision will create 62 residential lots. 2 entrance points are available for the subdivision, and access to each lot within the neighborhood will be provided from a residential street with attached sidewalk. The future homes will be subject to the development standards in the zoning ordinance for R1 properties. CO3 is the only subdivision within the plan area with an R1 designation. The other subdivisions are RS for small lot residential. The R1 designation anticipates lower densities with larger lot sizes, and the typical lot dimensions in this project are 65 feet wide by 110 feet long, which is consistent with the R1 standard. There are bicycle and pedestrian paths throughout the master plan. and the project site is bordered to the west by a Class 1 off-street path that will travel from the open space along Pleasant Grove Creek in the south up to Crimson Ridge Drive. A tree permit is required to evaluate an encroachment of 11% into the protected zone of an existing blue oak tree on Lot A in the project. The impacts to the tree will come from work within the public utility easement around the lot frontage. The rest of the lot will include native grasses. The tree permit contains all of the standard conditions of approval, which includes a requirement to follow all the recommendations of the arborist report, including that an arborist be on site during any work within the protected zone of the tree. So in conclusion, the project is consistent with the general plan, Campus Oaks master plan, zoning ordinance, and community design guidelines, and the required findings can be made for the tentative subdivision map and tree permit, and therefore staff recommends that the commission adopt the 3 findings of fact and approve the tentative subdivision map subject to 64 conditions of approval, and adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the tree permit subject to 19 conditions of approval. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this time?
I just have one, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean, for the presentation. Can you explain a little bit the bicycle and pedestrian access in between the different parcels?
In between the small lot parcels or
Throughout through the different bicycle and pedestrian master plan throughout the master plan area, bordered on the west by Class 1. Separate CO3 from CO83.
Yeah. So on the slide, I don't know if we can go back, is where the pedestrian and bicycle path will be adjacent to this subdivision on the west, and to the west of that will be the open space. So it'll be kind of along behind the houses between the open space.
So if I'll jump in too here, and the bike path will obviously connect to the north to other planned paths within Campus Oaks, and they kind of have, it is a pretty well integrated trail system throughout the plan area. It connects up to, there's a park kind of in the central area of the plan,
yeah,
and a park couplet, and then there's a paseo that runs all the way up to the planned commercial, or the commercial that's already under construction and built.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Capruso. Now I will open the public hearing. I'd like to invite the representative for this item to address the commission.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Sean, for the presentation. I'm Ken Topper, with Planning Manager with Morton Patallo. It's great to be here. As Sean mentioned, this is like the last piece of this very large project that we've been working on for some time, so it's great to be here. We've reviewed all the conditions and everything in the staff report. We're in complete agreement, and we're looking forward to your discussion and approval, hopefully.
Great.
If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for Ken, the applicant?
Thank you.
You. Okay, I will now open public comments. So public comments may be given by calling 916-774-5353. As a reminder, you will have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. And obviously, Greg will take a few minutes for any comments that might come in.
Chair Martin, there are no public comments for this item.
Okay, no comments. So then, since there are no public comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. And then, since there's no comments, obviously we don't have to have the representative mention anything. So then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And then, so I want to turn it over to the commissioners. Are there any further comments or elements to discuss from the commissioners? Oh. Okay, since then, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I recommend that we adopt the 3 findings of fact and approve the tentative subdivision map subject to 64 conditions of approval, and adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the tree permit subject to 19 conditions of approval. And that's for item 6.1, tentative subdivision map PL 21-0070.
I'll second.
Okay, we have Commissioner Pryor has made the motion and Commissioner Brashears has seconded the motion. Loopy, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Brashears,
Yes.
Commissioner Covington,
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor,
Yes.
Commissioner Caparuso,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes. The motion's approved. There's a 10-day appeal period for this item. Next item that we have is item 6.2, is a request for a design review permit for 10,051 Fairway Drive. For the record, it's file number PL 21-0015. Sean, could we have your presentation, please?
You may. Good evening again, Commissioners. My second presentation is on the Highland Reserve North Dutch Bros project. The project site is located at 10,051 Fairway Drive and is identified as parcel 45A in the Highland Reserve North specific plan. The site is 0.7 acres in area and has a zoning and land use designation of community commercial. The site is located within an existing parking lot of a Home Depot. The project parcel in the northwest corner was created in 2015, and the current proposal is for a Dutch Bros coffee house with drive-through on that parcel. As drive-through restaurants are permitted in the community commercial zone, the applicant requests a design review permit to review the proposed site plan and building elevations. The project consists of a 930 square foot coffee kiosk building with 2 drive-through lanes around the perimeter of the site. There will also be a walk-up window and 12 parking spaces in the center of the site. The 2 lanes provide a total of 425 feet of stacking for vehicles, or approximately 21 car lengths. Over recent years, city engineering staff have closely evaluated high-volume drive-through uses throughout the city and determined that 21 vehicles is an appropriate amount of vehicle storage to handle queuing for these types of uses. To further alleviate any queuing issues, the lane shown in green will be used during busy times. A runner will bring orders to cars, and the extra lane will allow them to exit without waiting for slower orders in front of them. A traffic study prepared by Kimley Horn evaluated potential conflicts among customers of uses throughout the shopping center. The report recommended striping, shown here in red, in 3 locations, be added to improve vehicle circulation, and condition 23 in the project was added to require the striping. Since the project is proposed in an existing parking lot, there are 73 spaces that are proposed to be removed with the construction of the project. However, there will still be a surplus of 56 spaces overall in the center. The community design guidelines were used to review the proposed elevations. Per the guidelines, the tan colors will complement the surrounding buildings. A variety of materials are proposed, including panels that mimic wood and concrete, a metal canopy, and a stone veneer that will match the adjacent Home Depot building. In order to reduce the visual impact of the new drive-through along the perimeter facing Fairway Drive, the applicant proposes to add a durable text material to an existing metal fence along the perimeter of the project. The lower grade of Fairway Drive will also, and existing mature landscaping will also provide screening of the project. So in conclusion, the project is consistent with the general plan, Highland Reserve North specific plan, zoning ordinance, and community design guidelines, and the required findings can be made for the design review permit. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact and approve the design review permit subject to 72 conditions of approval, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that presentation. Commissioners, are there any questions for Sean or staff at this time? Justin, who wants to go first?
Okay. Thank you. Sean, if you could go back to the last slide, I think, or the second to last slide. I know there's going to be a walk-up window, but there's going to be no outdoor seating.
We can ask the applicant I think typically there are a couple of tables with seating, but I don't know if that was specified on the plan.
Okay, well, we can ask the applicant. Thanks. That's it.
Okay. John, Commissioner Pryor.
Makes my question moot.
Okay, it makes
That was my question.
Okay. All right. I had a question. Take up several parking spaces with different materials and other products. Was that looked at? Is that going to be a concern possibly? That might be something. Both of those elements, what's going in here and what's there existing, is going to be busy on a Saturday morning. And with existing spots taken up, it's just possibly could be a concern that those 53 surplus spaces might be zero if there's spots that are taken from supplies from either of the applicants or the applicant or the existing person.
Yeah, I think some of the parking spaces you're talking about are supposed to be seasonal at least. I'm not sure how often the sheds and things are there. So those were counted towards parking, but then there are some areas in the back with more permanent fencing, and I don't believe those were counted. So those aren't part of the surplus.
Okay. I'll now open the public hearing. So I'd like to invite the representative for this item to come and address the commission.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rob Wood. I'm with Millennium Planning and Engineering. I'm the principal planner on this project. Jeremy Mowell, the owner of this location, Dutch Brothers, is here as well, and our staff engineer, Lily Sparks. So we're happy to answer any questions tonight. One of the questions that already came up is whether there's any seating available outside. There is a waiting area, so people that do come up to the walk-up window can wait in the waiting area, and there'll be a table with a few chairs while they wait. So,
okay.
Yeah, happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for the?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I noticed that there is one disabled parking space at the front, and beside it there's an EV parking space. Is there an electric charging point for that EV space, or it's just a nominal space?
It'll be labeled as an EV space, and there will be conduits and electric to that space. At this time, there's not a plan to put in a charging station, but it will be wired for future charging.
Okay. And what decided the location of that EV space?
It was just convenient there in the front, where we're going to have a lot of our electrical conduits anyway. Pretty small parking lot, so it really could have gone anywhere, but it seemed like a logical location near the ADA parking. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pryor. I'll now open public comments. Public comment may be given by calling 916-774-5353. As a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. And so we'll wait to see if anybody's calling in for the comments. And I'm assuming there's no people in the house that has any comments.
Chair Martin, there are no public comments on the phone line tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will now close public comment. And commissioners, are there any other additional questions we have, or we?
I do.
Just before that, if you want to close, since there isn't the rebuttal, if you want to close the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to close the public hearing, and then we'll run into the commissioners if there's any other discussions. And seeing none, so would anybody like to make a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's all right. I wondered who could speak to the traffic study.
I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So Matt, on table 1, can you explain to me? So this is where we contrast and compare with the other Dutch Bros.
Correct. So what they were doing with this table is they were trying to come up with a trip generation. So they were looking at the other Dutch brothers in the area and seeing, based on the size of the buildings that were at those Dutch brothers, how many trips were coming and going. And then based on that, they were using that to come up with an established trip rate and then using the square footage to assume the trip rate for this Dutch brothers.
Okay. But so shouldn't it match, by the way, my kids call me old for calling it Dutch Brothers, but shouldn't it, the trip rate be the same as the baseline? If it's the same size?
There is a pass-by reduction that's also within the table. So for trips that are coming through, so you would assume someone that's coming to Home Depot is also coming to the Dutch Brothers. And so there's a reduction factor that gets included. So that will reduce the number of trips that are solely being brought by the Dutch Brothers.
Okay. And then, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you remember when we reviewed a project off of Fitiment? A coffee kiosk, I believe it was.
For at Pleasant Grove?
Correct, Pleasant Grove, and yeah. And I don't remember the length of the queuing, but the queuing there was longer than required.
Correct.
How does that compare to this project?
That one, I believe, is actually a little bit shorter on the queuing. If I did review that traffic study just to compare as well, and I believe that one is queued up for, I want to say 19 cars. This one's set up for 21. And what we found, like with that study and then this study, we also were looking at what's the maximum number of cars we were seeing in a queue at once, not just kind of what the peak hour, but like throughout the day. Yeah. And it came out to 21. And so that's what this this drive-through got sized for.
At the busiest time of the day, regardless of trips, it was 21.
Correct.
Queued.
So that's what they were seeing in the queues for these other Dutch Brothers.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Thank you. Okay. We have another question. Great.
Also, I have a question on the striping for the keep clear areas. I'm just curious, are there other places within the city where that kind of striping is used, and how effective is that?
We do have some other retail locations where we have required that striping. I have not heard of any, personally, of any issues with it. And the intent of that striping is to keep that area open so as vehicles are coming in, right, that they're not getting blocked and it backs up into the public right-of-way. And so I haven't heard anything of us having issues at any of those other locations.
That's my concern, is just, it's more in terms of the vehicles egressing out.
For them to keep clear, correct.
For them to keep clear, because I have been to the Home Depot, and there are times when that traffic does back up.
Right.
Depending upon the level of activity. So I was just curious, but you're saying you're not aware of any problems?
I'm not aware of any problems at other locations.
Okay.
Matt, since we're on the subject of traffic and putting you on the spot, speaking of that keep clear, we could easily anticipate a situation where the light is red on Fairway. The drive aisle coming out of Home Depot is full except for the keep clear. You've got stop signs on the other sides, one coming from Dutch Bros, one coming from the Home Depot parking lot or whatever it is. We're, I guess, relying on, in the keep clear, kind of a one at a time type of thing once the light actually turns green, I would guess.
Yes.
And I read through the traffic study. I didn't see anything specific to this, but could we anticipate if it's one at a time, or if the folks leaving the Home Depot decide that maybe, we're not going to let people go through. Was there thought given to the potential for a backup along the Dutch Bros location, to where now cars either have to flow in towards Home Depot and figure out where they're going, or only go right, and then they cannot turn left onto Fairway because there's no light? Does that make sense?
So for the ingress, I wouldn't anticipate it being an issue as far as people accessing Dutch Brothers.
I'm thinking about getting out.
Trying to get out. I mean, if they, so I'm trying to think, if they block that keep clear, they wouldn't,
Because once you've got one car maybe from, I guess, the south, and one car coming from the Dutch Bros, and then the drive aisle from Home Depot, and you've kind of let this guy go and this person go.
Right.
But we're waiting for the light to turn.
So now, so now they've occupied that.
The keep clear.
So as long as the ingress isn't blocked, I don't anticipate an issue. As people are egressing, I mean, they'll fill that spot, and then the light will, once it activates, it'll allow them to move forward.
Hopefully one at a time.
Hopefully one at a time. Yeah. It's not going to be unsimilar as two people coming to a stop sign at the same time. There's a right of way as to how people should treat that.
Except for that the drive aisle from Home Depot, there is no stop sign, so they're going to continue to flow.
Right.
And not allowing,
Well, and that is a potential. And eventually that queue from Home Depot will decrease, and then those vehicles from the side street will be able to enter into the queue for the light.
Okay.
Or I believe there's other connections to other driveways. I mean, there's the driveway to I want to say it's to the east, which is right turn only. So if they were trying to make that right turn, but I also believe that the shopping center connects to other shopping centers and is able.
Looking at, they could flow west towards Home Depot,
right,
in the drive aisles, but then I would assume use the main drive aisle to get out. So again, kind of becoming part of the. I'm just trying to get it clear in my head.
Commissioner Beshears, I think Matt, his point on that the key feature for the city's perspective is to keep that ingress operating so cars are not backing up onto the public right of way.
Of course.
If there's a little bit of a backup inside the center, that's going to resolve itself as the light turns. But your question about the cross traffic, I think it's probably desirable, Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, for that exit lane for those cars to get out of that left turn, vacate that drive aisle, that exit drive aisle, and then have the cars at the stop signs move into the exit.
Fill that drive
area,
aisle.
fill that up afterwards. So I don't know that it would be desirable to have it one at a time, because that would slow down the overall movements in that intersection.
And the traffic study anticipated the fact that if they were waiting for that light to turn to fill
when that light turns, you want that whole queue to just go. And then the cars that are at the stop signs to move through after that's all vacated.
Okay, and then the length to Fairway, there's plenty of room there. Okay, so the ingress, you said, would be.
So you want to keep that open for the ingress, yeah.
Okay, I think Commissioner Caparuso had another question.
Sorry, yeah, this is like this table's like my Rubik's Cube. So am I reading it correctly to say the project, let's go to the ends, project's ends, we're thinking 90, which is consistent with the Sunset Boulevard location. But then pass-through reduction, we're saying 63 of those are going to Home Depot, and so only 27 are going to Dutch Brothers?
I think what it says is during the peak hour, we're expecting that 70% of the trips that would go to the Dutch Brothers site would also be going to Home Depot. So they're giving basically a credit towards the overall trips.
And pass-by trips it's not just Home Depot. It's any other. When you're out traveling, you're going to Costco, you're going to Dick's Sporting Goods, and you're driving down Fairway, and you got the kids in the back. Hey, let's jump through Dutch Brothers before we go to the store. And so you jump. So it's the overall. All the trips that are coming to Dutch Brothers during those peak hours, only 30% of those trips are when they left the house, we're going to Dutch Brothers and then we're coming home. 70% of those trips are out traveling to other locations,
right?
And Dutch Brothers is one of the destinations amongst many. So you look at when you look at all the uses have different percentage of pass-by trips.
I guess why is that important? Why wouldn't it just be how many trips are coming through?
Well, that's how you get to the net trips.
Yeah, what they're trying to analyze is how many new trips are being generated by the use. And so if it's not a new trip that's going to be on the road generated by the use, that's where the pass-by comes in. And so there's a credit for vehicles that are already going to be on the road that are, now we're stopping by Dutch Brothers, or by this use. And so what that does is it reduces the expected number. I mean, it's going to reduce the number of trips and then will eventually reduce the impacts.
Are the other ins on this chart for the other locations the net new trips?
I don't think they can speak to that because they're doing counts at a Dutch Brothers. I don't think they're following those cars to find out if that's a single trip or a new trip. And so they're using that generation, what they're seeing there for, okay, that's what we're creating, or that's what's being generated at the Dutch Brothers, and then they're using an IT,
I guess
guidance.
to compare and contrast, should I be looking at proposed project ins against the other projects?
I don't.
This table is not showing the pass-by reduction for those other projects.
Yeah, it is. It still has a 70% pass-by reduction when you go to new net trips for each project. Or for
Not for, not for the other sites.
Only
Not
for this site.
Yeah, only for the new site.
So I should be comparing, I should forget the bottom, not forget, but ignore the bottom two rows, I'm sorry. And I should compare the proposed project ins, outs, and total to the other locations. That's apples to apples. I'm looking for apples to apples because what I'm trying to see, right, that's what I should do.
Yes. So the reason why there's the reduction in there is it's based upon what the impact is on the actual roads. So the reduction number, the reduced number, the net new trips is what they're worried about on the road impact.
Correct.
But the proposed project, the ins and outs and totals are what's projected to be at that site based upon adjacent sites, based upon a square footage percentage.
So
Correct?
this is going to be the busiest of the four.
Yeah, in the peak hour, there'll be 90 vehicles coming to this particular Dutch Brothers, is what this is saying.
Which is more than the other three.
Which makes sense,
Just
given
an
the
estimate.
location and all of the.
Right, and
commercial.
the estimate based on the other.
No, I know it's an estimate. Yeah, it's not built. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It is the highest.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. So this will be the most, according to this table, this will be the most heavily trafficked of the four.
Based on how they calculated it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Capruso. So I just want to circle back then with the discussions we've had about traffic and kind of hammer the point about the 53 excess parking spaces and how Home Depot is occupying a certain quantity of spaces. And I know there's not any type of any measure or chance to tell Home Depot that so many of these are seasonal, and I'm concerned about, because this is going to be a busy site, which is great. It's good to have that traffic. Everybody loves Dutch Bro, as our kids call it. And it'll be a heavily trafficked area, and that Home Depot is hard to get in and out of on a Saturday morning. And when you add Dutch Bro with 100 kids coming in there, and 16-year-olds coming in at 45 miles an hour around the corner, it makes it for a fun spot. So I am concerned about those excess spaces being occupied by Home Depot, and maybe they're creeping over the limit of the line. And I know there's not anything in the conditions of approval that state that, and I don't know if that's something we can't even write in or not.
Yes, just to try to answer some of the questions that I think you had. The Home Depot, I believe they have a conditional use permit to locate there, and so some of the seasonal display was allowed under that CUP, but I think, like you mentioned, some of it has kind of creeped outside of that. Mm-hmm. So we can work with code enforcement to look at kind of what their allocation is and, make sure they're staying within those, set parameters that they have through the conditional use permit.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions to tag onto this, or?
Just a quick one.
Sure.
I noticed in the traffic study that the city provided videos of the intersection of Fairway Drive and Home Depot, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on December 5th, 2020. 2020 is kind of an anomaly. Were any other videos provided like pre-COVID?
Probably not. The videos that we get from our cameras, they're only live for 24 hours, or it only records for 24 hours and then it gets recorded over. So that's probably just the date that they asked for the information.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other additional comments, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 4 findings of fact and approve the design review permit subject to 72 conditions of approval. And that's for the design review permit for 10051 Fairway Drive, Dutch Bros, PL 21015, item 6.2.
I'll second.
All right, we have Commissioner Pryor has made the motion and Commissioner Brashears has seconded the motion. Loopy, can we have a recall or a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Covington?
Yes.
Commissioner Caparuso?
No.
Commissioner Pryor?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost?
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin?
Yes. Okay, the motion is approved. There's a 10-day appeal period for this item. Okay, those are the only 2 items on our list, so we jump on to the next one, which is the board member, commissioner, and staff report. So are there any reports from staff this evening?
Just real quickly, I just have to let you know the upcoming schedule. We do have items for the next 3 meetings, August 26th, September 9th, and September 23rd. So we will have a few items on each of those agendas.
You do realize September 9th is the Cowboys playing the football first opening.
I'll be here then. Go Niners.
Sorry.
I
Greg.
won't.
Apologize.
I'll comment after the adjournment.
I'll go on records. Go Niners, boo Cowboys.
I apologize. Sorry, Greg. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
So next 3.
The next 3 for sure, and then obviously I don't know what's going on yet in October, but we have projects in the pipeline that they keep coming.
Good.
Yeah.
Any questions from commissioners about my comment or anything else that Greg had? Seeing nothing else, can I see, is there a motion for an adjournment?
So moved.
All right.
Seconded.
Commissioner Caparuso has made the motion, and Commissioner Pryor has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Nice job. Well done, Vice Chair.